Could you throw down?
I do know who Nigel is. It's not like he's a stranger to me.
Yeah, Kate Hoey is Nigel Dodds.
Is the House of Commons session?
I'd like to make a point of order.
I think after all of the arguments that I've had with you, Nigel, we can just agree that you're British and call it that.
Well, thank you, but somebody that had a USA voice was speaking that fast I couldn't understand them, and usually it's the other way around.
Mr. Speaker!
Oh, it's Hersey
No
turned up.
speaker.
Yeah.
Oh, great. No one's made Nigel Dodds.
Oh, great.
Mr. Speaker!
Hersey, yeah, you already know it's going to be a fun day.
Lord Hersey.
Mr. Speaker, I rise!
Going to parliamentary inquiry,
Point
Mr.
of order,
Speaker.
Mr.
Oi,
Speaker.
You sound like a Nigerian prince
I
trying
will
to
blow
steal
your
money.
brains out. I'm waiting another 2 minutes because I'm finishing a job application and I always
Uno
like
reverse card.
Henry,
Alright, but
you're not going to get hired anyways. It's fine.
Can I ask the Prime Minister a question?
No.
No.
No. What? Okay.
Also, Taco, you
Get out
you
of here,
20 minutes
Dashi.
to write 5 questions, and I want them in my
It was
inbox within 5.
No, I mean, it was not related to, the PMQs. It was just a question.
Alright, fine, but you still have to write 5 questions, because it is PMQs today, my least favourite thing.
I was just going to say that it does seem that y'all have 2 Secretary of States for Justice, and I just want to know what's going on with that.
Peters does not remove his nickname.
Would they be 2 separate positions, or would you be on about Lord High Chancellor and the Justice Secretary? Because they are 2 different positions.
Not really. They're just given to the same person all the time.
Yeah, but if you have 2 people who occupy that same position,
no,
the argument you could make is that
Peter's got removed from the cabinet. He's just not changed his nickname.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I seek the floor.
Order in the House of Commons. Order will happen in the House of Commons. Now, as it very clearly says on the order paper, the first thing today is the confirmation of the Right Honourable Robert Peel to the House of Lords. That is my appointment, as it clearly said in the bill introduced by the Deputy Speaker. My appointment has to go through the House. So I ask if there are any objections to making Robert Peel a peer.
Objection.
Can I speak though? Can I speak?
Objection.
Hey, you come back in, and the very first thing you do is disrupt the House. Alright, well, we're going to move to a vote on it. So,
Can I speak? Can I speak though?
Order in the House. No, we're going to move straight to a vote. I'm not going to allow any work.
Garrison, mute your
If this
mic.
fails, I'm
Mute
appointing
your
Hersey
mic.
to the House of
Mr.
Lords.
Speaker, an avoidance of debate is violation of Standing Order 43. Would that not be wrong?
Quite frankly, I'll kick you out. Right, we're going to move to a vote on it.
Pointing out the rules.
We're moving to a vote on the appointment of Robert Peel to the House of Lords. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Get him out.
Sir
All
Robert
against,
Peel
say
is
nay.
so abundantly free.
No.
Nay.
The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Robert Peel is now a peer in the House of Lords, meaning he is no longer allowed to come to House of Commons sessions, or he's allowed to come. He just can't vote.
Oh, right, that's a good thing.
May I give a statement, Mr. Speaker?
You get one so far.
Okay, I would like to congratulate Mr. Robert Peel on becoming a member of the House of Lords. He is a very good person. I know that he will do a very fine job in the Lords, so I just want to congratulate him.
Mr. Speaker.
I will
Thank
allow
you.
Sir Robert Peel to make one statement before he ascends to the House of Lords.
I'd also like to thank Mr. Braga for his warm statement about me. I want to say it's been an honor to serve alongside you in this house, and I look forward working with you outside of the House of Commons and still maintain a professional and good relationship with all of you. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. I do believe I request the floor.
The speaker's died of ligma.
Order will come back to the House of Commons. Let me
Point of
just check.
clarification.
Point of clarification will be stated.
I believe it was the Home Secretary said that the speaker died of ligma. I would just like to ask what ligma is.
Ligma's not a funny joke. All right, we now move to the budget. Because it's so fucking long, I will allow 10 minutes of reading time for the budget.
Can we do 5? I don't want to sit
So we will and I'm not going to allow.
Point of
No, 10.
point of order.
It's 10. Tubbs, you're not in the house anymore.
Oh,
Technically,
I
the
request
appointments haven't been.
that the honourable
He is
gentleman
in the
Mr.
house.
Peel leave these chambers immediately.
but
Yes.
I'm
Point
not
of order.
appointed yet.
No, the king's not
Point of order.
appointed him to the lords yet.
All right, the point of order will be stated.
Mr. Speaker, what happened to the no Christian policy?
You know what? Okay, well, they just deafened. All right, 10 minutes of reading time for the budget. We'll reconvene at 10:02.
How much is defense?
So I cannot vote on this.
Yeah,
Point of order. Point of order. Sir Robert Peel, he's still a member of the Commons because even though he was confirmed, his appointment has to be made official by His Majesty the King.
Yes.
For all the lords. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so we're abundantly clear, Lord Peel.
Yes.
Soon to be Lord Peel.
I think this budget needs to pass only for the fact that Marcus put such a hard work in it. Like it's so long.
I don't think it needs to be freaking.
Because Marcus.
I don't think it's that long. Most of
It
it's just
isn't.
charts.
It isn't long at all.
It's not that long. It's like 5 pages.
Defense spending is meant.
I made a bill that was 50 pages.
I wrote the entire defense spending bit. Let's go.
And I voted against Bragger's bill because I didn't want to read it.
Stephanie, you're a war criminal.
Are we still in reading stages?
I'm worse than Slabadon
It's a very short bill to read.
I'm worse than Slobodon Milosevic or whatever his name was.
People.
Very based.
Why is Northern Ireland not talked about in the budget?
This transport budget's a little sexy.
Because no one likes it.
Northern Ireland.
Worst budget I've ever seen written on paper.
Amen. I don't know who said that.
Why is the law enforcement spending only increased by $2 billion?
That's your concern.
Because we
They're
bumped it up a
increasing
lot
military
from
spending.
last. We bumped
Okay,
up
but it
law
should be
enforcement a
bumped up
lot
even
last
more.
year.
Oh.
I mean, I'm
we
down.
got-
I just really wanted to pay off the national debt. Like,
An increase in military spending
You gotta
is not
admit-
a way to pay off the national debt. You could have in fact kept it the same. You just paid it
bring an
off
end
more.
to reading
Is it
time,
fairly
and we
long?
move directly into
Point of
a.
clarification. Point of order.
Motion is denied.
This reading time, I request the people
Yeah,
to
I request a
quiet
vote on the
down.
motion to skip reading time.
No.
I second.
I second
Bro, can we
that
finish?
motion.
I object.
Of course, you object.
Well, I haven't read the whole bill.
Read
You've had
faster.
enough time.
Yeah,
You
go
have to
read
read
it.
it to look at both graphs. That's it.
Maybe the opposition should actually do something for once.
It's an
The member will
entire
remain
budget.
quiet.
Are you expecting me
It's
to
easy
skim
to
past it?
read.
Okay.
Order in the house. All members will remain quiet and read the flipping budget, and we'll come back in 7 minutes. Bruh.
Bruh.
small potatoes.
The government spending no money to counteract SUGMA.
Get in.
Hmm.
My name's Jamar. I come from afar.
Order on that, guys. Mute yourselves, please. I want to let people read it.
9.
Has anyone seriously not read it by now?
It's only 5 pages.
It's 5 pages. Do you speak a different language?
Does
Skim it.
anyone object to closing reading time?
I motion then.
No, I second the motion.
All right, there is reading time is over, and I'm assuming that you want this to pass today.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you guys want the budget to pass today.
Yes.
All right, I'll allow all 3 readings with 2 debate sessions. No amendment sessions. All right, the first vote will be held. All in favor of this budget, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Vote once. All
No.
against, say nay.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Get
No.
rip.
All right, we're going to a roll call vote. Woohoo, poggers. All right, the member A Bagel.
Mr. Speaker, can I just say I'd like to state that it's a 3-line whip.
Wait, what do you want, Seth?
It's a conservative 3-line whip. If you vote against any of these readings out of the party.
It's pretty obvious. It's going to be 3-line whip aye and 3-line whip nay. All right,
Actually, I would like to
member
make
A
a statement.
Bagel.
Well.
I will not be issuing a 3-line whip on this bill towards my party.
Okay,
I
right,
will
fine.
issue
The chief.
Point of order,
Chief
Mr. Speaker.
Conservative Party. Order in the fucking house. The chief whip of the Conservative Party will state No.
Parliamentary inquiry. You used unparliamentary
I will
words.
repeat parliamentary words. The Chancellor and Chief Whip will state their flipping whip.
As the Prime Minister said, this is a 3-line whip aye for all conservatives. Based
Leader of
on
the opposition.
That dog.
Taco, what's your whip?
1-line whip nay.
And that's it. I'm not gonna let anyone else do it. All right. The member A Bagel.
Aye.
Okay. The Chancellor.
a resounding aye.
The Defence Minister.
A resounding aye.
The Deputy Speaker of the House.
Oh, sorry. I vote aye, Mr. Speaker.
Paste.
The Foreign Minister.
Aye.
The First Secretary of State.
Big old eye.
The member John Penrose.
No. Nay.
Yeah.
All right. The Home Secretary.
A resounding aye.
The member Priti Patel.
A resounding nay.
Get it, just.
The member will refrain from speaking while voting is going on. The member John Peters.
Aye.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Outstanding nay.
The member Nigel Dodds.
No, Mr. Speaker.
The member Ollie Clout.
Nay. Are you? You bastard.
The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Aye.
Shadow Leader of the House and Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Grassley. He voted nay. The Secretary of State for Space.
A resounding A.
A for anus.
They said A. The Secretary of State for Business, Environment, Industry.
A resounding I.
Okay, bro, all of you mute your mics unless you're speaking. The Secretary of State for Justice.
Aye.
I vote abstain. The Undersecretary of State for Health and whatever.
A resounding aye.
And the member Hersey.
Mr. Speaker, I vote aye.
Here.
Couldn't have guessed that.
Here.
Alright. The ayes have very clearly won that.
Here,
Unless you
here,
guys are going to be
here.
pricks and make me count it up, I'm not going to count it up.
It'd be based
Good.
if you did, but I won't.
Reading, and I will allow second reading debate with the Chancellor being able to drink whatever the hell he wants. So I will allow him to drink and then speak.
Mr. Speaker,
I'd like you to state what your choice of beverage is today.
Mr. Speaker, I have a fantastic port from our own Scottish distilleries.
All right, very well.
Right.
Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, today, gentlemen and ladies, fellow parliamentarians, I'm proud to announce that we have continued our prudent fiscal policy of not only maintaining balanced budgets, we are also able to increase spending on vital law enforcement and defense services without blowing up the national debt. In fact, thanks to this budget, if it passes, we will actually succeed at paying off the national debt entirely by the end of this fiscal year. Moreover, as a result of this budget passing, we will succeed at reducing income tax rates across the board by 50%, with the top marginal tax rate being reduced from 25% in the previous fiscal budget to 12.5%, and the middle class and lower middle class tax rate being reduced from a further 50%, as you can see outlined in the revenue section, from 15% to 7.5%. Very easy math. This is a 50% across the board tax cut. Moreover, based on the previous budget, we were able to reduce VAT from 15% or from 20% to 15%. And I very much look forward to further reducing that in the next budget. And with that, I think it's a fairly self-explanatory budget, as you've all been able to read. Mr. Speaker, I yield. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I request the floor.
I request
The floor.
I have to give it to Ian because he's more important. So the Defense Minister.
Thank you very much. This budget continues to support its armed forces. As you can see, if I'd like to point out to the top of the budget under defense spending, not only are we going to modernize the Type 45 Daring class, we are also going to start purchasing new ships to replace it and purchase more frigates, both the Battle class and the Colony class, which have just been announced by the Ministry of Defense within the past 2 years. They have already been laid down. However, these orders will retroactively pay for the ships, as these were not ordered in the last budget. We paid for them with discretionary funding. However, now we are going to officially pay for them with this budget. And by investing more into our Navy, we will not only be expanding it, allowing for a better escort fleet for our armed forces and allow us to project our power all over the globe, we're going to be modernizing it as well. We're going to be adding newer systems to our ships. We're going to making them larger. We are going to make them better. And we are going to make them more autonomous so that we can have the same ships use less men, meaning less of a need for large amounts of manpower in our armed forces. We are also going to be investing more money into the Tempest program, which we have unveiled our most recent prototypes, and we will start inducting these into the RAF. As you can see under one of the sections, we are purchasing 185 Tempests, and which will be purchased over the course of the next 10 years.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
What the hell? What the hell,
Point
my
of
guy?
order.
I
The
request
point
the
of
floor.
order will be stated by the member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I ask very simply, this budget?
No.
That's not the point of order. The point of clarification, dumbass.
Why is this budget so inured into the defense? Are we preparing for some sort of war?
Order. That's a point of. That's a point.
That's something to ask.
You cannot
in
ask a
parliamentary
question
Make a
point of
different
order.
type of
The
statement,
defense minister
my
will
guy.
continue. A point of order cannot be a question.
Here.
A point of parliamentary inquiry.
Hubs.
The defense minister will continue.
Thank you very much. We also are providing larger amounts of discretionary funding for our armed forces so that they are able to conduct operations independently of government control. This will allow for greater amounts of flexibility within the field and will allow for greater amounts of flexibility among commanders who know what they are doing better than our government does. Finally, we will be purchasing not only the Churchill War Office, but we will build multiple bases, such as a multi-force base at the port of Darwin, and we'll be building and upgrading the RAF Akrotiri and RAF Dekelia on the island of Cyprus. These will make them into premier, world-class facilities capable of projecting British power all over the Mediterranean far more than they were able to do beforehand. I'd like to thank this government for passing this bill through the first reading, and thank our parliament for not only backing the troops, but supporting them with greater funding and greater resources as well as this budget will do. I hope that we are able to pass this through second and third reading without much more delay. Thank you, and I yield.
Here.
I wish to recognize.
I would like to be recognized after, I believe it was the first Secretary of State was the person waiting.
There's already 6 people waiting, so.
One the leader of the opposition,
Give me
so.
2 seconds, my connection's.
Mr. Speaker's gone.
Ligma caught up with him again.
Lick my balls.
Future Lord Braga. You there?
Lick my balls.
Fucking tiny ass balls.
What?
The speaker does not
Let
watch.
me remind everybody that this is still recording.
Speaker quit.
What?
Okay.
Oh, it's recorded.
Yes, this is recorded.
Oh,
Yeah, it's recording.
If
So
you would all
don't
look
say
towards
anything.
the House of Commons chat.
Redacted.
Order in the House. If you would all look
Redacted.
towards the House of Commons chat, I'm queuing up people there. So first is the Secretary of State for Space, OG Hamza.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Henners. This was an amazing budget. I mean, it felt like it was. We're basically getting rid of all the fucking deficit. Sorry for my language.
Here.
I have to, watch my. Sorry, I have to watch myself sometimes. But I'm glad that it's getting rid of the deficit. I'm glad that this budget was extremely based, and everybody who voted nay, I dislike you now very personally. All of you, well, not all of you. Some of you I dislike. Some of you still like.
Point of order will be stated by the Honourable
I
Member, and
wanted to
it's
say.
a valid point of order.
And now that's all I really wanted to say.
Hamza,
All right,
be quiet. A point of order has been stated.
Mr. Speaker, the Secretary of State, I believe, used an unparliamentary term. I request that it is removed.
Does he remove it?
What should I remove? That's the question.
Just say you remove the unparliamentary term.
Oh, I removed the unparliamentary term. I removed the unparliamentary term. All right, but this was a very good bill, and this, that's all I really wanted to say.
Okay, we now, Major, send what you want to say in the course, I'll
And then I'm
speak
next.
it because you cannot. Yes. Okay, he says, Mr. Speaker, who doesn't want a budget that basically halves income tax. Right now, we move on to the
Here.
First Secretary of State.
I can respond to that actually.
Mr. Speaker,
I'm gonna be in trouble.
Rainy mic engaged.
Okay. Well,
Mr.
I hate two people in this chamber right now, but you know, it's life. And also, this bill or this budget is pretty based, and for everybody who voted nay, can like go to their mom's basement. So, I yield.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pretty sure you have to be over the age of 18 to
I
be a
know.
member of
You
Parliament,
want me to? You
and
want
this
me to
gentleman
release?
sounds like his balls haven't dropped yet. I request that he's removed.
Mr. Speaker, condemn him!
I like that, man.
George.
I can tell you two people I hate right now.
Mr. Speaker,
Dodgy
to be
Taco,
18
Dodgy
or
Taco.
older to be a member of Parliament with
I'm not Dodgy
House.
Taco,
The
I'm leaving
gentleman
the
doesn't
office.
sound like his
Taco.
balls have even dropped yet.
I'm
so I
not Dodgy
request that he is
Taco.
removed.
Please refer to me by my
The
name.
shadow,
while-
the Shadow Defense Minister is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, you know, what we've just currently seen from this government right now is loads of their Secretaries of State boasting about the military budget. Oh, and it solves the deficit. What they're doing is ramping up the military budget and then basically slashing everything else. So, you know, you see that there's loads and loads of poverty in this country. You see those who struggle and starve. Children that can't afford food, parents that struggle on a day-to-day, and yet this government want to increase the military budget. Ooh, prioritizing the deficit. This is the reality of the matter.
Can I respond to that?
And how can you seriously put £200 billion into defence and not put at least 100 billion of that into health or the police or, you know, the emergency services? What is the reality that we're facing seriously? Can we live with this reality? And, you know, it's absolutely
Can I respond to
ridiculous.
that, Mr. Speaker?
And if I may add one last point, right? If you're going to put this much money into the army, there's got to be a reason. You've got to be preparing for war because the army's only purpose is to battle. And what's good about war? How can you sit on the bodies of thousands of people and claim victory with a blood-soaked banner? Who can do that?
Me.
Because certainly nobody in the Liberal Party can, but my assumption is that the Conservative Party isn't as moralistic as us. But that's another matter.
May I please
Can I respond as well?
May I please respond as the defense secretary?
I give way to the defense.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shadow Defense Secretary. Now, I understand your grievances. I understand how you feel that we are preparing for war. However, us in the Conservative Party believe it's the opposite. Peace through strength, quite frankly. Peace through strength. Without strength, there will be no peace. Without powers that are willing and able to defend other nations, there is no peace. If every nation can gather its strength and push it on to other smaller powers, other smaller nations, and other powers that have no ability to defend themselves, then there will be constant war, constant conflict. The only times where we have been at peace were the times where we were strong. And the times where we weren't strong were the times where we've been to war. Look at the Falklands conflict. The Argentinians thought that we were weak. They thought that we would be pushovers. They thought that they could take our land and not have anyone respond. They were wrong. Argentina was wrong. We beat them. But we need this so that this doesn't happen again. We need strength so that China doesn't roll over our allies in the Far East. We need strength so that Russia
way.
doesn't roll over our allies in Europe. We need
Give way.
strength
Order in the
so
House.
Iran doesn't attack our tankers in their
Order
Persian
in
Gulf.
the House
We
of
need that strength.
May the defense secretary give way for a second.
No, none of you are speaking now because I've just had to fucking run outside because my connection to my flat is so bad.
I
Right.
like the floor.
No, all of you will shut your mouth, and the leader of the opposition will be recognised.
Well, my parents are about to pull in the driveway, so I have to keep this brief.
I demand the right honorable speaker withdraw his comments.
Can you please allow me to speak so I can help my parents?
The leader of the opposition is recognised, then the member, Priti Patel.
I would just like to make the statement that I don't believe that this government has thought out this bill well enough due to the fact that even their own form of healthcare system still requires a healthcare budget. And at least in the subrary section, it does not specifically state there is any money going towards healthcare. I know they privatized education, and that's not even something that's even on my mind at this point. And I gotta go. Anyway, how can you make 180 billion in revenue but not spend one dime on the healthcare system you made?
I thank the leader of the opposition for his statement. I now recognise the member Priti Patel for theirs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just going to first say that the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Defence Secretary, used the example of the Falkland Islands, claiming Britain was weak when the Falkland Islands were invaded. I'm just going to remind the Right Honourable Gentleman that it was actually a Conservative government in power when the Falklands were invaded. So are you directly responsible? Is your party directly responsible for the invasion of the Falkland Islands by cutting and slashing defence budgets, by cutting military spending, by cutting the amount of servicemen in our armed forces? I'm just going to pick up on a few other things as well within the budget. Where am I? Purchased 185 Tempest fighters, purchased 8 Type 32 class frigates. Now the Tempest fighters, to begin with, they're manufactured by an American company. So my question really is
Point of clarification.
I'll allow it.
The Tempest fighters are a joint development between BAE Systems and Saab, which are a British and Swedish companies. Just want to point that out.
Alright, the member Priti Patel can continue speaking.
Right, okay then. So, God. Where am I? So, it's a joint program by the British and the Swedish. Can I ask then, if these fighter jets are going to be ordered by and built here in the United Kingdom supporting British business, or does the Right Honourable Member and the government, do they not trust British business to build our military? And the second question as well is, if we are so directly wanting to improve our military, why did the Right Honourable Member say there is going to be slashing the amount of people within our armed forces?
I never said any such thing. I said that the
You
ships.
said that you're going to be cutting.
The ships we are ordering will need less people.
So you are going to be cutting the amount of people.
Or other programs.
There will be order in the House chamber. Member Priti Patel will continue speaking, and then I will allow the Defence Minister to make a reply. Then I will recognise the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
You said that the new upgrades to our ships are not going to require the same amount as sailors as is required now. Are you planning, if you would listen and allow me to finish, are you planning to cut down the numbers of our military?
I am not. I have never said such thing, and I will never plan to do such a thing. I have only stated that the ships we are ordering will require less personnel to man them, meaning that they shall be more effective in combat. I am only stating such. And if we go to the Tempest fighters as well, I do trust British businesses to build our military, which is why I selected BAE Systems to build both the Type 32 and the Type 83 frigates. Frigates and destroyers, as well as the Type 31. Let's go also back to the Type 26 and Type 45. All were manufactured by British companies, BAE Systems, and supported British jobs. I have never said that I do not trust our military and our country to build up our own military. I have never said as such, and I am not implying as such. I am only stating that the Saab and BAE systems, when they were working together on the creation of the Tempest fighter, that was far before our government was even in power. That was 20 years ago. Back in 2015, they started this project. Our government has only continued that partnership as it seemed more beneficial to not tear away the work that had been done before and force us to do 25% of the work over again. I never stated that I do not trust our country to build up our own military. Now, going on to the projection of weakness that you alleged earlier, I am only stating that the Argentinians thought we were weak, and that perceived strength can prevent wars. Our government in the 1980s, however, was not a weak government. We took our islands back and proved to the world that we were not weak. It was the labor governments of the Wilson era that slashed our military spending, that took us away from East of Aden, that were, oh my god, Mom, enough.
The Chancellor of the Exchequer is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to take a moment to respond. As far as the law enforcement spending is concerned, we have actually increased from the previous budget, which itself was an increase from the budget before that. When the Conservative government took power under Prime Minister Sethi, the law enforcement spending was approximately £35 billion. We have increased it by £10 billion to £45 billion. We've also increased the amount of law enforcement officers by 20,000 throughout the United Kingdom. We've also reformed and streamlined the police chain of command in England and Wales. We have, through the Home Secretary's successive chain of police reform acts. Moreover, as for the allegations that we have not done things for the working class, I refer you to the reduction in VAT from basic rate of 20% to 15% in the previous budget. I refer you to the 50% reduction in the basic income tax rate from 15%, which is already a cut in the previous budget, from 20%. Now it is down to 7.5%, meaning under this conservative government, we have cut taxes for the working class people in this country by well over 50%. Moreover, as for the idea that we are not adequately, the conservative government in the past was not adequately prepared, I again refer you to the achievements of the past successive governments under former Prime Minister Craig Whitaker. Thanks to the buildup that we had under him and Prime Minister Sethi, we were able to be prepared enough to retaliate against the rebel terrorists in Cyprus. And we were able to reassert control and law and order in the island, protecting British citizens. I would caution against reducing this policy of prudent of salaries for our brave men and women in uniform in this.
May I request to speak if the Chancellor it keeps cutting out?
Hello?
Finish my. May I request to finish my statement, by the way?
I'm next after him.
Let's finish the
Am I
statement.
still? Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you again.
I can hear you, Marcus. Yeah.
We have no plans, as the defense minister said, to reduce personnel at this time. In fact, all we have done is increase salaries for our brave men and women in uniform throughout the conservative tenure. We've actually increased our armed services personnel, and we have no plans to turn back. Moreover, we've increased benefits for veterans to ensure that our brave men and women in uniform are not abandoned by this government, and they will never be under a conservative administration. With that, I give way.
Mr. Speaker, I wish the right to respond under parliamentary law.
May I reserve the right to finish my statement from earlier before right on response, Mr. Speaker?
Ian, George, then the list.
All right, thank you very much. As I was saying earlier, it was the Labour governments that cut our spending. It was the Labour governments that made our nation's military weak. And it was under the Thatcher government that we actually started to boost our military spending, boost funding into research, boost funding for our Navy, and boost funding for our Army and Air Force. We put research into the Harrier. We were able to equip our armed forces with it. We were able to make a mobile and response-ready force that was able to project power across Europe and the Atlantic. However, our modern military has more needs than that. And that is why we boost the budget again. But you were saying earlier that our country was made weak. Our country was made weak by conservative governments. That is an incorrect statement that you have made. It was the Labour governments of the 1960s and 70s that weakened our country. It was those Labour that were able to destroy our nation's military. And it was only under a conservative government that we were able to be looked upon with strength once more. Thank you. And I yield to the Right Honourable Priti Patel.
Yeah, all right. The member for Priti Patel is recognised for I don't know what, John. All right, go for as long as you want.
Well, it's not going to take very long, and I'm just going to prove the honourable member wrong. As a matter of fact, Margaret Thatcher was in power from the years 1979 to 1990. Now, I have with me right here a diagram of defence spending, and under Margaret Thatcher's reign, defence spending actually dropped 10 billion. So, can I ask, where under Margaret Thatcher did defence spending increase apart from the little spike?
May I respond?
You or Ian, I don't care which, but then I'm moving on to Gareth.
I would like to respond as to the fiscal policy.
It's either one of you two. I don't care which. I'm going to recognise Ian. I mean, he is the defence minister, so that makes more
All right,
sense.
thank you very much. So let us look at 1979. The
Hello?
budget had been slashed from. The budget had been slashed.
So you did reduce defence spending.
Know your facts.
We did reduce defense spending. Let's look
Okay,
at
but you've just said you didn't.
We did
Order in
reduce
that.
defense
Can we
spending in
order in that?
1990.
Hello?
Right, that's it. I'm winning this argument. The first Secretary of State is recognised.
That was
Thank you. You know, if the Liberal Party was in charge, we would
Hello?
have a negative $1 trillion. Because if Chancellor Marcus wasn't Chancellor, we would be in a terrible debt because of the Liberal Party. And
I
also,
would like to
for the Liberals not wanting to defend our nation by increasing a defense budget, this just shows that the Liberal Party wants the UK dead.
Quality
It
over quantity.
seems as you're not wanting to defend the UK. You're not wanting to increase spending. We might as well just end ourselves to China, many other terrible nations.
Okay, woman.
I would like to respond to that.
I would like to
Look, guys, I
respond.
can't let you all respond because we actually have to get this passed as
But
well.
that was
So
an
hold
attack on my
Becky.
leadership. I feel like it'd
No.
be a fair response.
The Chancellor, then the leader of the opposition, then the Chancellor, then the vote, then the third reading vote, and then we're done. We can move to PMQs.
As to the past 20 years, I would refer the honourable member government and previous conservative administrations since that of Prime Minister Sethi. Under Prime Minister Sethi, we increased defense spending by a significant amount. Under Prime Minister Craig Whittaker, we increased defense spending. We have never decreased defense spending in a single conservative budget since Prime Minister Sethi came to power. And I will remind all my colleagues that there has not been a single budget which has decreased defense spending. We are the party of national security. We are the party of prudent fiscal policy. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
The leader of the opposition will make. Wait, Taki, did you already make your statement?
No, I did not. I was skipped multiple times.
You first, then I'm holding a vote. Then I'll let anyone from the cabinet or the shadow cabinet speak. Then I'll end this rodeo with a third reading vote.
All right. So now that I'm not cut off from outside events, I would just like to make the statement. I am not against having a large military as stated right now. However, what we have right now is completely bloated for the economics of our nation. If you actually spent some of this extra revenue that we have on hand on other programs, such as healthcare, which is something y'all had before, it was in the last budget, 52 billion pounds, if I'm correct, it's just magically gone in this one. So my question ends to the Chancellor, if he could respond to this real quick before we move on. What happened to healthcare? Is it gone, or do we have no healthcare system at all?
The Chancellor's recognized. Yes, finally.
Under this conservative administration, we have, under this budget, succeeded in fully turning the United Kingdom into a free market economy. The government is not participating in the practice of intervening aggressively into the healthcare industry as it has under so many successive governments, Labour and Conservative. And we have succeeded in liberating the economy of the United Kingdom and making it a fully capitalist free market society. That is the conservative policy that many successive conservative prime ministers have advocated for. And under this government, we have succeeded in finally realizing that vision.
I thank all the members. However, no, we're moving to a second reading.
My question was whether or not there was spending on healthcare. Is there spending on healthcare?
No, the member will be quiet.
10 hours later. Fucking hell.
All right, yeah, exactly, Sethy. Plus, I don't have enough mobile data for 10 hours. So, we'll now move to the second reading vote on the bill, on the budget. All in favour, say aye.
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 All against, state your vote as nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. We now move to a closed debate. If any cabinet members wish to be recognised, type the letter I'm about to type in the chat, and I will let you be recognised. Today's letter is that. Go. All right, the Minister for Defence. You get. Oh, just so you know, you all get one statement. That's it. All right, Ian, you're recognised.
Thank you very much. I would just like to say that this budget, making its way to a third reading, is a godsend for our nation's military, is a godsend for our nation, and will allow us to grow and prosper into the future. I'd
Hear,
like to thank all of the members who voted for it today, and I would like to call out the members who didn't, and call out the members who do not support our military, and call out the members who made preposterous statements about our government, about my statements, and about our statements here today. I will not use their names, however, they know who they are. Thank you very much, and I'd like to hope that this bill passes the third reading. Thank you, and I yield.
The Leader of the Opposition will make the final statement before I move to the third reading vote. PMQs is cancelled for tonight because, quite frankly, I don't think any of us can handle it. So we will move to the motion, then we will move to adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to say that this looks, in my opinion, like a rushed budget, which was not well thought out. There are many of things that just, it does not look like this was properly designed. I believe that if the cabinet and the shadow cabinets were willing to actually discuss this budget, we could have actually made something that could have been more bipartisan and would have helped both of the what would have helped all people of our nation rather than just a military increase and a law enforcement increase. I would like to congratulate them on the tax cut. However, I don't believe that the tax cut is big enough to justify no spending at all on healthcare or education. I am going to encourage all members of my party to vote nay on this due to the poor bill.
We will now move to the third reading and final vote on
Here, here.
this bill. Now, it will pass. Each Tory vote's worth 12, each opposition vote is worth 2. However, if there are any votes nay, I will go to a roll call vote. However, I already know it's going to pass, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, all in favour of the budget passing to royal consent, say aye.
Aye. Big guy.
Aye.
All against, state your vote as nay.
Nay.
Okay, well, 2 of you did it. You're disgraceful. The budget passes. Congratulations to the government.
Here, here.
Mr. Speaker, I request a roll call vote.
I motion to adjourn.
No,
Let's
we have
motion
a
for a
motion
roll call
from
vote.
the Honourable Pretty Britell. This
yeah,
is going to be fun. Alright, George, send me your motion.
Sent it in first reading.
You sent it in first reading. You sent it in the House of Commons. I was going to say it's drowned out. Right then, let me just pull it up. Alright then, it is now in House of Commons. All members can read it. I'll give you 20 seconds. Right, I consider that 20 seconds. Alright, I will now allow the member Pretty Patel to speak, and then I'll move to a vote, and then we can move to adjournment.
The motion which is before us right now is to replace Prime Minister's questions. When the Prime Minister isn't available, we will revert. We will then go to questions to the Cabinet. Questions to the Cabinet. Any member can ask any question directly towards any Cabinet member. For example, if I was to ask a question which related to defence, it'd go to the Defence Secretary. Any question relating to the budget, it'd go to the Chancellor. It'll be a mixture of oral questions and written questions. Each party must submit 5 written questions to the Speaker, and the Speaker will then pass them on in return to the government to write a response to and then present it within Parliament. Following written questions, there will be a period of oral questions where questions will be asked from the floor, and the government will have no idea which questions they are and will be put onto the spot. The session will last the maximum of 45 minutes and no longer and no less.
I think it's an interesting idea, so we will now move to a vote on the motion. I will allow the whips, and by I say whips, I mean the Chief Whip and the Leader of the Opposition, to state their vote. The Chief Whip will go first, as he is a member of the government.
I believe that this is. I'm sorry, I'm just waiting for confirmation from Prime Minister.
While you wait, I'll state that.
Leader of the Opposition, Chief Whip, while we're waiting.
I believe my party should vote their conscience on this bill.
It's a motion, but okay. All right, I'll wait for the Chief Whip. I'll give you a minute. If not, we'll just say it's a free vote for all.
I believe that this is going to be a one-line nay.
What? Okay.
What? I vote nay on this motion.
Oh, I'm not doing it roll call, so I mean, one line doesn't do much, but it's just a recommendation. But all in favour, say aye.
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 All against, state your votes nay.
Nay.
I count more. I count more ayes than nays, so I'm gonna say it passed.
I don't think so, but
Mr. Speaker, I ask that we go to a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Phone round, an industrial state.
Y'all didn't allow a roll call vote when I wanted one. You ain't getting one now.
No, I'm letting this pass. All right, unless there are any objections.
That was. I object.
I object.
Okay. All right.
We want to roll call.
Well, I objected to the previous one passing, but you don't see it happening in a recall vote.
Mr. Speaker, you're not being very neutral.
You wanna wait
No
20 minutes
neutral. No neutrality.
I'll do it.
A disturbing lack of neutrality.
Here, here.
If you want to wait 20 minutes for me to get back home, then fine. But until then, I consider this passed.
Alright, dude, you did not. That was nowhere near, dude.
You know what? Fine. I'll do it in
Like
House
to-
of Commons text chat. Here we go. House of Commons text chat. I'm not doing weighted voting for this.
Lol. Okay. Seems.
Think of it. It's such a.
We want roll call.
I request to meet the Prime Minister and the Chancellor after this.
Okay.
Do you
I'll
need
be
to
around.
conversation?
I want to discuss the speaker.
Okay, we can discuss that.
All right, there you go. It's in. Have fun. Vote your way.
Request to end voting.
Objection.
It would have ended in a tie. That would have just been a shitpost. Like,
I motion to end voting.
what the fuck?
I don't want you to shut the fuck up.
I asked for them to remove the unparliamentary wording.
And I asked you to shush.
I will not, because this
I,
is about
Mr. Speaker, I motion to end voting.
I motion you to
Mr.
kiss my
Speaker's
ass.
gone.
He's right here.
I am new, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker. Henry.
A motion to have Priti Patel arrested.
Second.
Second.
I heard that. I heard this.
I fourth.
Actually, I'm just Home Secretary. I don't need to motion.
That'd be funny.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I motion to end voting. Mr. Speaker, I motion to end voting.
Fails. Congratulations, Garrison. You got what you want. Right, I now pronounce this Council Joint Understanding Order. I don't give a shit.
Taco, go to my office if you want to have that conversation.
Thank you all, cabinet members, for voting against this.
Thank you all. Yes. Also, I think
I'm gonna end Craigbot real quick.
This was a base moment in base history.
What actually was the motion? I missed it.
it was basically to like